soap, when we're washing our hands. Really, abide by the social distancing rules so that we'll all be safe.
Yeah. The world case so far, right now, we are doing about 4.4 million cases worldwide and almost 300,000 deaths worldwide. Wow. That's a lot of deaths, And I think it's important for us to bear that in mind when we look at the global picture. It's very important. We can easily look at our picture in Ghana and feel as if it's not really happening here, but we have to understand that as soon as borders open, as soon as there's travel, this thing is going to go a different direction, because the world situation is real, and it's happening. 300,000 around the world. I think in Africa also we're looking at about, right now 2,400 deaths Africa-wide, But on the upside, there are a lot of recoveries as well. Nice. And so even though you have, let's say, almost 70,000 cases, we have about 25,000 recoveries across the continent of Africa.
Nice.
So you're looking, let's say, it's approximately about a third, or just under a third of the people who have got it in Africa have recovered. And of course, we also know that our recoveries in Ghana have also gone up, considerably. We've been asking for it, and then we're seeing that the figures are slowly inching upwards. So we have 514 recoveries now.
Yes, and our positive cases are 5,408. We'll show you the breakdown, and if you go on to citinewsroom.com, you see it right there. So the positive cases are 5,408. Yeah. The active cases are 4,872, and you get the active cases by subtracting the recoveries as well as the deaths, the number of people who have died. So the total active people who currently have coronavirus in Ghana is 4,872. Now I'll walk you through the regional breakdown, okay? In the Greater Accra region alone, we have 4,147 people positive with COVID-19. This is a very hot spot, which means you have to be extra vigilant if you live in Accra. You can't take anything for granted. You must protect yourself because, again, we all know the majority of the positive people are asymptomatic, which means you will not show any signs and symptoms. And even if you have symptoms, they'll be very mild. So it's very, very difficult for people to detect that you have COVID for them to stay away from you. When you go to the Ashanti region, it's gone up as well. 726 people who are positive in the Ashanti region.
Yeah, so beyond that, we also have Central region, that's 192 people. Eastern region is 99, Western is 61, Western North region is 56. We have Volta region 34, Upper East region is inching upwards at 26, Oti region is at 24, Upper West region is at 21, Northern region is at 19, Northeast region is at 2, and Bono region has also recorded a case now, and they have one case there. Savannah, Ahafo, and Bono East are still not gotten any cases. And so that's generally the look across the country, the way it's broken down. And I think it's very important for us to remember that even as Accra has become a hot spot, Ashanti region is quickly climbing, and it's very important for us to stem that as quickly as possible. I think that looking at the information coming in, it looks as if Obuasi is one of the bigger places that are looking to, threatening to get out of control. So I think we need to do a lot to lock it down and make sure that Obuasi doesn't get out of control.
Yeah, and unlike other diseases where you have to do all kinds of difficult things to prevent it, COVID-19, you generally have to do the basic things, the small things that you think are not that important, like washing your hands. Some of us take that for granted because we're like, I look at my hands, they are not dirty. I don't have to wash my hands, right? But if you're conscious of the fact that these viruses are microorganisms that you can't see with your naked eyes, then you will take the necessary steps to protect yourself, ensuring that you live in a clean environment. So not just washing your hands, but making sure that wherever it is that you're staying, you're spending most of your time, it's clean, you know, and from the Tema and Obuasi experience, we know now that a lot of people are catching the virus in their workplace.
Yeah.
So it's one thing to say, okay, when I go home, I'm going to make sure I do all the necessary steps, but if you spend majority of your time at work, you can't let your guard down.
Absolutely. I watched a very interesting video. We can't show it to our viewers because of copyright issues, but we'll see if we can find one that will work later. But it was very interesting because it's an experiment that Japanese scientists did. Sprayed fluorescent spray on his hands, right? And what he did was, in a room of about maybe 15 people, they were having dinner. So the fluorescent spray was like hand lotion, right? So he sprays a little bit into his hand, then he rubs it in his hands like this. And then, you know, of course, you can't see it, right? So then he goes about having dinner regularly. So at the end of the dinner, then they turn off all the lights, and they turn on what they call black light. Now, black light literally is like a UV kind of light. So then it exposes things like the fluorescent paint, which is in your hand. You can't see it with the natural eye, but the black light will expose it, right? What they wanted to see was how far has the black light spread from just his hands and, you know, serve yourself. So you come, you dish some salad, you go, you dish some potato, you go, you dish whatever, and everybody will come and dish their own. 15 people. Everybody was touched in that room by the end of the evening. Everybody had some. So you see some people in their collar, some people in their shirt, some people it's on their face, on their ears, just from his hands. It just shows how it's so easy for this thing to spread. You know, and this is way back in 2010 that they did this experiment, you know, and yes, you know, so you realize that, look, we should not joke about it, you know, at all, because you may think you've washed your hands, right? Then you come in, so somebody's doing makeup, for example, they sanitize their hands, they step outside for a second, quick second, come back in, you touch something, you touch that door handle, and you walk back in, you're infected again. You know, it's crazy. So
we can't take it for granted.
At all. We need to be very careful.
Yeah, and I mean, in this whole season of COVID-19 where we're all thinking we will come together as one, we are asking people to stay home. The president is telling us to stay home. Yeah. A few days ago, we hear a story of child abuse in Kumasi. And it's not any child abuse story that's by a neighbor or someone strange, but the father of the child. And his reasons, I mean, first of all, you never can have any reason to beat your child up in the manner he abused the child. But to say a 3-year-old destroyed your phone and peed on himself, which is something he's supposed to do.
Yeah, he does. Every 3-year-old does that.
How does that warrant you beating him to a point where even the police are afraid that he might need to do surgery for the wound on his head?
Yeah. Wow.
You know, so then for me, I'm just asking questions about people in this country who maybe home might be more dangerous than even
getting out.
And what we should all do when you hear someone abusing their child or you spot the red signs, because we are all complicit, but we have a report on it by our colleague Hafiz Tijani. So we take a look at the report and then continue the conversation.
The 3-year-old, who is only known as Junior, lies on a hospital bed at the children's ward of the Menchia Government Hospital. Pictures of severe injuries he sustained on his back, forehead, and other parts of his body went viral on social media. This prompted public and media attention. Menchia Divisional Police Commander ACP Kwekubua narrates the incident to Citi News.
Has been physically abused, brutalized by his own father. It so happened that the woman, the mother of the child, used to be in a relationship with the father of this child, but the relationship is no more. This man says he's a national service person based in Accra. He comes from Kumasi, so once in a while he comes downtown, and over weekends the baby goes to him to spend a weekend with. And that very weekend, as has been the practice in the past few months or so, he went for the baby, and the mother got a phone call from someone in the area telling her that if you really loved your son, come and pick him away. She goes to the house, and the former boyfriend, i.e. the father of the son, refuses to allow her to even see the baby. So she comes to the police station. We go with her to the house, and we go for the baby. We see that the baby has got a swelling on the forehead and a cut and a swelling on the forehead. We try to pick the baby, and she begins to cry in pain. We see some injection violet in the shirt that he was wearing, and we tried to remove it, and this boy begins to cry the more. So when we removed the shirt, it was very, very bad injuries at the back. The reason the man did this are two. Firstly, he says the boy has caused damage to his phone, a young phone. Secondly, he says the boy has urinated on his bed.
He says the father will be processed for courts soon.
To physically abuse your own son like this, as we talk now, for the past 3-4 days, the boy is on admission. And our fear is that, I pray that it doesn't happen, but the fear is that the injury on the head might be a little bit more grievous than the one at the back. If that is the case, it means the doctors will have to do a surgery. A 3-year-old boy, what has he done to you? So he's in our custody, the docket is ready, and we've even sent it to the prosecution unit for them to start the trial. That's what we have on our hands.
Meanwhile, the Ghana NGO Coalition on the Rights of the Child has taken interest in the matter and has pledged to help in seeking justice for the victim. Berima Akwesia Mankwa is national coordinator for the coalition.
I was happy when I saw the condition of the child because the demeanor of the child looks very good, even though she is in pain. But we see that he is very okay, moving around, and that is encouraging, which we are very happy with the situation of the child.
What assurance are we getting from you?
The assurance that you are getting from us is that all of us are very concerned, and we want to support the process to ensure that the best justice is given to the child. And then also it's going to be something case that or something that is going to be there so that people will learn from it, that if you give birth to a child, you don't have any other thing than to take care of the child. You don't say that I'm the one that have given birth to the child, and for that matter I can do whatever I want to do with the child. No. The survival and the development of the child is very paramount, and also ensuring that the child is well taken care of is what we need.
Police at the Menshia Divisional Command say they will continue to monitor condition of the victim and liaise with the family to get justice for the 3-year-old. From Kumasi, I am.
And we apologize for the graphic nature of the images, but I think it's important for us to bring some of these stories, however harrowing they are, to help us to understand the nature of what's going on in Ghana for real, because sometimes a lot of these things are hidden, and you know, we talk about things, but we don't show the extent. People don't understand what it means, you know, the extent to which. I think this situation here, there's only one direction this case needs to go in. The guy needs to go behind bars and pay for his crime. It's a criminal act. It's a criminal act. There's no way you can describe it apart from it being a criminal act. I think it's important for us to also realize that during this COVID-19 era, there's a lot of stress, you know, in the system. There's a lot of mental trauma that's going on. People are stressed out and everything else. But I don't think it's an excuse in any way, shape, or form, you know, for us to mete out this kind of behavior to your child. I don't understand that. Jifa, I really don't understand that. I think it's important for all of us to realize that no matter what we are going through, the people that are closest to us are the most important people around us, and we need to respond in
as a society, we've lost our way because the formative years of a child, you are the child's introduction to society. The kinds of values you expose that child to will be the values that will stay with them for the rest of their life. If you show the child love, care, compassion, empathy, it will stay with him for the rest of his life. When he's now introduced to society, these are the kinds of values he will give to society, because even before he could speak, he was used to receiving them from his parents.
Absolutely.
If you show the child that violence is the way
to go,
they have no other, notion of how to relate when they finally come out into society. So to hear a story that an educated young man who is working as a national service personnel would do this to his child and have the audacity to say, because the child destroyed my yam phone and peed on himself, it's unacceptable. And the legal fraternity, they need to make such an example out of him that any adult who feels like they can do that to an innocent child, because you must be a unique kind of coward to do that to a child who cannot fight back, who cannot protect himself, who cannot do anything. And for all the people around who may have heard the child crying and did absolutely nothing, they are equally guilty. Every single person who saw the red signs, because people like the father, they don't become this evil overnight. They start out small, then we look away. They hurt people, and we make excuses for them, to a point where you think it's okay to hurt a child who depends on you for protection, for care. They are dependent on you. So you are the person who's supposed to show him love, show him compassion, show him empathy, protect him from the world. He may heal. I was happy when I heard the police say
his demeanor was positive.
Because children have a way of escaping from their realities. No matter how bad things are, they can allow their imaginations run wild. But the minute they become teenagers, everything they've repressed from their childhood will start coming back. They will remember, and they won't have that same empathy they had when they were kids. Because now they are adults, and they know that their father should have known better than to do that to them. Whatever adult stood by and did nothing should have protected them. And they will not forgive us for creating a society for people like that to survive.
And I think that when you talk about creating a society, there's the macrocosm of the internal family. Then there's the larger family. There's the people who are in the compound wherever they live, the other people. Then there are the people like Dovsu, the police, and so on. If the child has been let down by people in the home, in the compound within which the child lived, the people like the police and Dovsu cannot afford, in no way, shape, or form. It's absolutely important that the law comes down hard, strong, and swift in this case. It shouldn't be a case that is going to be, 6 months in the courts and no, there's nothing, I don't care what the reason is. I heard something being said, I think it was yesterday, I heard something being said about the fact that somebody was suggesting that he had mental challenges or whatever. Look, if he has mental challenges and he claims to have mental challenges, he should spend a few weeks in one of the mental facilities. And let's see whether those mental challenges stick or disappear. I think it's a very serious situation. And we should stop pussyfooting around these type of problems that are in our society, because this is not the only one. Okay, domestic abuse is going up in our society. And I think we need to start to set proper examples to send a message that it will never be tolerated. It doesn't matter who it is and who you are. It will not be tolerated. I think it's a very important thing that we should, a call that we need to make, that let the police do their job. Let this gentleman be sent to court as quickly as possible. You don't need any further evidence except the fact that there's already admission, and his explanation is that he spoiled my phone. Spoiled your phone? I remember my daughter at 3. I was happy for her to spoil something of mine. I mean, seriously. It doesn't make any sense. I don't understand the logic. Spoiled my phone. I remember my daughter at the age of 2 was playing with my laptop. Everybody was complaining. She was spoiling it. I said, please, she's my daughter. She's allowed to spoil it. Spoil it for me. That's what makes you my daughter. You have access to what's mine. How on earth does a father get away with this? And I don't think anybody should sit by, not at least the police, to sit by and let this guy get away with this. No. 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 As I'm going to take a trip personally to go there and make sure that we rally people to sort it out if the police are not going to do it.
They're going to do it.
Yeah.
I'm happy that the police, they are actively engaged in this case. They are doing what they are supposed to do. But us as a society, there's this whole, we've lost what made us so unique. The fact that we took a responsibility for someone else's child.
Yeah.
When you see a parent doing something wrong, you don't need any, reason to step in and say, this is a child of the community. You can't do that to him. We have this notion that I brought you into this world, I can take you out. No.
Yeah.
You brought me into this world, and your responsibility
is to
protect me and raise me up to be a productive member of society. You not only owe me this, you owe the society this.
Yeah.
And the minute you see your neighbor not protecting their child, you step in and you tell them this is wrong. You don't allow it get to this point, because we've heard stories of you say, so it's none of my business.
Yeah.
The mother of the child was not there because she probably trusted that this is the person I conceived the child with. If there's anyone in the world who would hurt my child, it won't be the father.
Yeah.
He will protect the child. And there's something wrong when someone trusts you, when you're supposed to you're supposed to guard the child, and you betray that trust. You don't need any excuse as a neighbor to step in and say, I'm going to call the police. I'm going to take responsibility for this child because he is our child.
Yeah, and defenseless. Defenseless. The question that comes to mind is, how did we come to this place as a society where people will stand back and rather pick a mobile phone and film an incident instead of stepping in to defend and protect? How did we come to this place as a society? Because, trust me, growing up, I knew that a neighbor would jump in and find out. A neighbor would hear somebody screaming on the other side of the wall. They will come in, they will find out what's going on. You see, so How did we get to this place? Whatever the reasons are, it's not a good place to be. And I think we need to do better as a people.
I completely agree. The family, they're on their way to court this morning. We hope that the child will get the justice that he deserves. We hope that the state will help the parent get some sort of psychological help to heal from this trauma. Because the physical wounds might heal. They may turn into scars, but the psychological wound of being abused by the one person who is supposed to protect you and love you and care for you, that psychological trauma is something that will take a while for all the family members to deal with. And we need to get to a place as a society where we stop sympathizing with the perpetrator, where we stop making excuses for the perpetrator and start holding him accountable for the crime he's committed, so that no other child will go through this ever again.
Well, you sent us some messages, and we just quickly want to read it. Priscilla Ajiman is saying that he must be put behind bars. Yes, I agree with you, Priscilla. Mohammed Ibrahim Al-Hassan says, good morning, Citi. We thank God and bless God for a new day. And I wish you all the best. All the best regards. Keep it up. May Almighty Allah protect us against viruses from our country this day. And another message is coming from Yolanda Nieto. She says, oh my God, this is so bad. Yes, it is, Yolanda. Charles Nyame from Asamankesi says, what we must all understand is that there are more cases in Ghana. Ghana's recording is not because of more testing. It's because government has failed to make provisions to stop the spread. I don't agree with you there. I think we're doing more testing. The spread is happening globally, so there's nothing you can do except doing what the government is doing at the moment. But we do have, usually, we have a code for you, so we're going to take the code quite shortly, and then we'll end this segment. The man needs to be jailed to prevent others from indulging in other criminal acts.
I agree.
Yeah. All right, so let's take a look at our quote for today. All right, so the quote for today is from Socrates, who's a philosopher, and says, employ your time in improving yourself by other men's writings, so that you shall gain easily what others have labored hard for. And this is an encouragement for us to read, and gain knowledge. Absolutely.
I completely agree. I think, knowledge is one thing that you can't, it says ignorance is expensive,
yes,
so
yes,
find a book, read, and, we'll be fine.
Yes.
And we're going to continue following the story until justice is served, because we owe it to that boy. But this is Breakfast Daily on Citi TV. Thank you guys so much for staying with us. News Review is next.
Yes, News Review is next. And Jafar is going to be engaging some wonderful guests that we have today. It's going to be exciting. Don't miss it. We'll be back.
Data, extra minutes, and extra unlimited calls. Not just that, even our extra data doesn't expire. Simply dial *111# to bundle now.
Airtel Tigo. Life is simple. Ghana is a beautiful country. There is so much of it you probably haven't seen, haven't experienced, haven't touched, haven't felt, haven't eaten. When this is all over, let's discover our land again with new eyes, Let's feel each other again. We are one people, brought together by destiny. Let's make that count. Let's show love for each other and our environment. Let's tell our stories, and let's watch and listen to our stories. There will be so much to tell. Ghana is a truly beautiful country. Be Ghana, stay in Ghana, experience Ghana, make Ghana great. And we will invite the world to come and experience Ghana too. But for now, stay home. Brought to you by the National Film Authority. Supports the Stay Home and Discover Ghana Later campaign. This channel supports the campaign.
God bless our homeland, Ghana.
Welcome back. This is Breakfast Daily on Citi TV. Thank you so much for staying with us. We'll take a look at our newspaper headlines and then some online stories, and then we'll introduce our guests who are already seated here with us. We'll start off with the Daily Graphic. On the front page of the Daily Graphic, we have man 26 arrested for abusing his child, his son. So we talked about that story, and the son is just 3 years old. Can read more on that on page 13 of the Daily Graphic. And on page 13 as well, we have Ghanaian-Ugandan scientist research into COVID-19 drugs. Finally, Amidu eligible as special prosecutor, Supreme Court rules. We'll be taking a look at that story shortly, and that's on page 3 of the Daily Graphic. We'll now go on to the Ghanaian Times. On the front page of the Ghanaian Times, we have age eligibility suit, Martin Amidu fit for special prosecutor, Supreme Court declares, and that story is on page 3 of the Ghanaian Times. You get all the other stories in the Ghanaian Times, of course. We'll now go on to the Business Finder. Use of Heritage Fund for COVID-19, experts sharply divided. Okay, so that story is on page 2. You can withdraw part of pension funds. That's coming from the NPRA, and that story is on page 8. We'll now go on to the New Crusading Guide. On the front page of the New Crusading Guide, we have NPP will win 2020 polls with or without new voters registered. That's coming from Mark Menu, and he said that on Face-to-Face with Godfred Akotobuafo. And you can read more on that on pages 3 and 10 of the New Crusading Guide. We'll now go on to the Chronicle. On the front page of the Chronicle, we have Amidu off the hook, but Dominic Aine surprised about judgment. That story is on page 2 and 3 of the New Crusading Guide. We'll now go on to some online stories. I'm going to start with citynewsroom.com. On citynewsroom.com, we have judges' reasons for jailing former NCA board officials not convincing. It's coming from Ndebugri. Countries must be self-sufficient in COVID-19 era. It's coming from an economist, and I completely agree, especially since a lot of countries are looking internally to develop their economies. COVID-19, drinking bars, nightclubs should remain closed. That's coming from the Tourism Ministry, and they had to clarify it because the Tourism Authority had issued something different a few minutes or hours before they also came in, and they said, of course, we should take what they're saying over what we heard from the Tourism Authority. So no drinking clubs and definitely no nightclubs. COVID-19, Ghana's COVID-19 death count now 24. It's a really sad one there. Another story related to COVID-19. Ghana's COVID-19 case hit 5,408. Recoveries now 514. We'll now take a look at some business stories from citibusinessnews.com. Invest 18 billion Ghana cedis into the economy to save jobs. TUC to government. COVID-19 emphasizes why government must boost data availability. That's coming from Andani. Ghana must limit commodity dependence to lessen impact of price falls. That's coming from an economist. We'll now take a look at some more local news from myjoyonline.com. On myjoyonline.com, we have Amidu's verdict doesn't endorse extended retirement age for public office holders. That's coming from the Deputy Attorney General. We'll now go on to some global news from bbcnews.com. On bbcnews.com, we have coronavirus may never go away. World Health Organization warns. So it means there's a probability and soap, putting on our mask, and staying clean and safe, not just because of coronavirus, but it's the right thing to do for all of us. Now, of course, you can get all of your news from citinewsroom.com, and you can get all of your business news from citibusinessnews.com. Now, throughout the news review, we want to hear from you. So if you're watching us on Facebook, just comment down below. If you're on other social media platforms, the hashtag is Breakfast Daily. And if you want to reach us directly, our WhatsApp number is 0550-585-832. If you're outside Ghana, the country code is +233. I have been joined by Henry Kokofu, who is the Deputy CEO of Ghana Integrated Iron and Steel Development Corporation. Good morning, Mr. Kokofu.
Good morning, my dear.
How are you?
We are doing well.
Good.
And yourself?
I'm good.
Good, thank you.
I'm you're not taking anything lightly at all. You brought your rubbing alcohol on set with you.
Yeah. It has been with me all along. Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
How are you adjusting to, the idea that COVID might be with us for a while?
Yeah, let me say good morning to our cherished viewers and to my colleague and yourself. This has come to stay with us. So what do you do? And that is one good thing that God gave to man. Natural adjustment. Situations comes and you can't do anything about it other than to adjust to the prevailing conditions. And again, we have institutional arrangements as being announced by the president through protocols, enhanced protocols and all other things. So mine is to adhere to what has been put out there. And you or there is also to adhere to. So all of us,
we have to do our bit.
It's incumbent on us to adjust to the situations in order to save lives, save our own selves, our families, and other people of the public. So we have got to learn and learn fast. You just read that the WHO has hinted that COVID-19 may have to stay. It's not going away anytime. I mean, that's a prediction. Whether it is going to be or not, we should know by now that we are not in normal times, and that all that we do, we must consider life first, our safety first, the safety of others.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
I've also been joined by Honorable Samonate George, who's MP for Ningo from Pram. Good morning.
Good morning, Jufa.
How are you?
Can't complain. Grateful for life.
Thank you for being with us.
It's a pleasure.
I see you have your mask on just right. It's good.
Prepared myself.
We'll take a look at our first story. I'm reading from the Daily Graphic we're going to look at page 3 of the Daily Graphic, and it says here, Amidu eligible as special prosecutor, Supreme Court rules. So Martin Amidu is eligible to be the special prosecutor as his appointment did not contravene the 1992 Constitution the Supreme Court has declared. In a 5-2 majority decision yesterday, the court presided over by Justice Enim Yabua, who's the Chief Justice, dismissed a suit claiming that Martin Amidu was ineligible to be the special prosecutor. I was going to say that the prosecutors, because he was 66 years old at the time of his appointment, and therefore his appointment was unconstitutional. That was what the suit was about. But, of course, the majority decision was by the justices again, of course, Justice Enim Yabua leading that case, ruled that it wasn't so. The court did not give its reasons for dismissing the suit, but said the reasons would be filed at the court's registry by close of today. Now, in an interview with journalists after the judgment, Dr. Ayine said he was extremely surprised that his case was dismissed. He said, although he was yet to see the reason for the dismissal of the suit, he believed the decision would set a bad precedent whereby people on retirement could be appointed into public service. I'm going to quote him. He says, "This will not give our young people the opportunity to serve in the public service of Ghana. I see this as a foreseeable consequence of the decision." So I'll start with you on this matter, if you don't mind, Mr. Kokofu, the special prosecutor being able to hold his office, even though he's above the retirement age. Your thoughts on it?
Yes, to be recalled that the special prosecutor.
Please continue. Please continue.
Yeah, the special prosecutor was nominated by the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, and subsequently approved by the President. He went through the processes of parliamentary grilling, and he came up. We are all witnesses of what actually went on during this year period. In January 11, 2018, however, there was a suit filed at the Supreme Court invoking the original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court, seeking a declaration that his appointment is unconstitutional and therefore should be declared null and void. And it was in the name of a former Deputy Attorney General, Honorable Ayine. So it had been on and off, on and off. But we must also remember that the action, the instant action that we're talking about, had to do alongside with Honorable Ayariga's case of being investigated by the OSP, the Office of the Special Prosecutor, where he has challenged the eligibility of the OSP. So that particular investigative processes had to hold on till the determination of this very particular case. In the initial suit, Martin Amidu as a person was named as a respondent, but I think somewhere February 2019, the court struck out Martin Amidu's name, saying he's not a proper third party to be enjoined with a seat. So it has traversed to what we learned yesterday or 2 days ago, if I'm correct. The court has spoken. The Supreme Court has spoken. And that be it. Until any other person or the applicant goes back to the Supreme Court for a review, that remains the ruling and the law. We are unable to, or I am unable to, go into the reasoning of the verdict because the Supreme Court itself did not provide the reasons instantly. So I want to hold my fire, and then as we move on. But for some good reasons and academic purposes and all kinds of things, we must be able to know how the Deputy Attorney General who stood in for the state, argued in defense of the lawsuit. And as we move on, we will be able to. The lawsuit itself was premised on Article 191 and D of the Constitution, and then 1991 together with 259. And also that conjoins with Chapter 14 of the 1992 Constitution that talks about public services and all that. So the applicant built his case around those lines, summarily saying that the man was appointed when he was 65 years. I think 65 or 66? 66 years. Far above the 60 years retiring age that the Constitution, Article 199, so prescribes. So it has gone through the man. What is interesting is that the rule of law, all the principles of natural justice have been in display when you go through the length and then the details, the merit of the trial. So we thank God that finally we've come to a finality to this.
Do you agree with Dr. Ayeni that it sets a bad precedent for young people who may be looking to take up these offices?
Not at all. Not at all, because there are a lot of opportunities out there. And who said at any point in time you should have young people occupying all positions? No, there must be a mixture, an intermixed. So we learn from the old generations and all that. So it is not. And mind you, when it gets to that point, then it's premising on emotionalism.
How so?
Yes, of course, because he has gone to court on the point of law. And the court has said your legal grounds has no legs.
No, he still has a right to offer his opinion on the results, right?
Yes, of course, that is it. That's why I'm saying this time he's offering opinion not on legal basis, but on emotional and other things. You understand me? So where to play the legal game, he had been there, just from there. And he has fall flat. He got bruised. So he has only one option, whether to go back on a review or stay with it as it is. So congratulations to Mr. Martin Amidu. The Office of the Special Prosecutor now has the moral and legal authority to go ahead with this work without any impediment. So be it.
Thank you very much. Honorable Sam George.
Well, let me say a very good morning to yourself once again, and the Honorable Pokofu, and our viewers across the length and breadth of the country. You can not fault the Supreme Court when it gives, or when it invokes its inherent jurisdiction to interpret the Constitution. It appears that when it comes to interpretation, the Constitution in Article 295 makes it clear that interpretation of the Constitution rests within the bosom of the Supreme Court. And so if the Lord Justices have given their interpretation, we are bound by it. However, we're at liberty to disagree with them. And even though we respect the ruling of the Lord Justices, I'm waiting to see the ruling itself and peruse the contents of it, because on the face of the Constitution and the whole gravamen of the case that Dr. Ayeni sent was Article 199 of the Constitution, which talks about retiring age and pensions. And this is what Article 199 says. 1991 says, a public officer shall, except, and it is shall, not may, shall, mandatory. A public officer shall, except as otherwise provided in this Constitution, retire from the public service on attaining the age of 60 years. Simple. You must retire when you attain 60 years. That's what the Constitution says. Okay? Nowhere in the Constitution does it give an exemption to the special prosecutor. And so an act of parliament in itself cannot supersede the Constitution of Ghana. The Constitution is our grown-up. It's our base law. And so our mother law. You cannot seek to subvert the Constitution. And you see, for me, the fact that you have a situation where it was not a unanimous decision lends credence to the fact that some of the Lord Justices hold the view that we hold, that Mr. Amidu's appointment is in breach of the 1992 Constitution. They may be in the minority, but anybody who is a student of law knows that several times minority decisions have proven to be right with the passage of time. I mean, the great Lord Denning and Co. in minority decisions have actually espoused proper principles of law that have become the norm, or even in obiter statements. And so, yes, the majority may have ruled in favor of Mr. Amidu, but when you read the Constitution, which is specific, it says everybody must retire at 60. The Constitution says that people like High Court judges can retire at 65, gives an exemption. People like Supreme Court judges, Electoral Commission, Appeal Court judges, Electoral Commission chairs retire at 70. The Constitution is specific to all of these groups of people. So for the Supreme Court, led by His Lordship, the Chief Justice, to rule in the manner in which they've done, we can only wait to peruse their judgment and see what legal reasoning they are given for what appears to be a subversion of the 1992 Constitution. However, I am want to agree with the learned former Deputy Attorney General, the Honorable Dominic Ayine, when he says that this portends a bad precedent for the future of young people in this country.
How?
I, for one, am a young person in this country who has benefited from the possibility of serving in public office, both elected and appointed. If certain groups of people had not given way for young people like myself to get the opportunity for appointment into public office, I may not be sitting here. I mean, I never ran away from the fact that my opportunity to serve in appointed office opened the pathway for me to get into elected office. Okay? And for many other young people, it has been the case. Even older people, it's been the case that appointed office gives you room and gives you a certain a springboard to get into elected office. And so when you have a situation where we're saying that even when people ought to go on retirement, we want to keep them by way of extensions or by way of finding back doors to keep them in the system. They could still serve in advisory capacities. I mean, today, and this position is buttressed. I mean, and thankfully, this is a position that has always been espoused by social-leaning presidents in this country. Look at Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah's government. Very large number of young people. Look at President Rawlings's government. A large number of young people were in there. I mean, most of them in their 30s when President Rawlings took over power. The PVO beings, the Atua Hoys and co, they were in their 30s. Okay, the Tutubi Kwaches, I mean, young men in their 30s. You look at Professor Mills. He gave all of us the opportunity to come in. President Mahama has continued it. It has compelled President Akufo-Addo to go along with that trend. Who in the MPP believed that a 30-something-year-old will be made Deputy Chief of Staff? But today it's possible. Because at first, they were the young men, himself, Dan Botri, Yawabi and Samoa, those in their 50s. There's Samir Wukuza and Abu Jinapos, they were fetuses, they were political babies. Not seen to be able to, but because of the doorway that was opened for young people like us to come into office. Today, a colleague of ours, Abu Jinapor, Deputy Chief of Staff, okay, you've got board chairman like Samir Wuku, young men. So if
Information Minister,
Kojo Nkrumah, if you say young people should not be given the opportunity, and I keep saying that, look, as many young people have been given the opportunity, I wouldn't say all of us have performed creditably well, but a good number of us have justified the faith reposed in us. And for a country that has a very young demographic, I keep saying that they keep telling us the future belongs to the youth. No, today is that future.
Okay.
Today belongs to us.
But don't we have something to learn from the older generation?
Fantastic. That's why they can serve us in advisory roles.
Okay, so the Deputy Attorney General, Mr. Godfrey Dame, says, I'm going to quote him, it is submitted that to place the constraint of age on a person who exercises prosecutorial powers when the Constitution has not specifically provided for same is plainly untenable. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, the same Constitution provides that everybody who serves in a public capacity, in that case, then Mr. Godfrey Dame should not push for any of the directors of public prosecution at the Attorney General's office to retire at the age of 60. Why is it that the DPPs retire at the age of 60? They are serving public prosecutorial positions. But why do they make them retire at 60? Okay. What makes the special prosecutor? I mean, that argument, and that's what I'm saying, I would want to see the reasoning of the Lord Justices.
He goes on to also say
that argument is flawed because you have DPPs and prosecutors in the Attorney General's Department at the Ministry of Justice who are mandated to retire at the age of 60 because they are with the public service. Are they not offering public prosecutorial services? So what is special about the OPP or the OSP? You understand me? And so if DPPs in his own ministry retire at 60, even though they offer the same service he's speaking about, I mean, he's shooting himself in the foot with the argument. But like I said, the Lord Justices have given their ruling. We can only abide by it.
Yes, you try to read Lawyer Dame's statement of defense. One particular thing that came to fore, commissioner. Yeah. Yes, as one case. And that we should understand that the special prosecutor's office is not public service recruitment per se. That's why it is called special office. And that is why...
you can just press the top here.
That's why, in the wisdom of the lawmakers, including himself, they made special provisions for it under the Parliamentary Act that established it. So, whatever way you look at it, the judges have spoken. You should all wait for the ruling. We can interrogate it further. But until then, this is the verdict.
Do you agree that, perhaps public service personnel of a certain age should be in advisory roles and support the younger generation?
No, let me get there. He thought of New Patriotic Party or my tradition, looking at 50 years on and all those as the young men. But we are here in this country when former President Mahama, at the age of 55 or 56, says he's a youth. And Akufo-Addo is an old man, but he is a youth. We are here in this country. And who told you? Go back and check. J. Akufo, former president, was appointed Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs when he was 33 years old.
By who?
By who? By Bizia's government, UP government, certainly not by NDC government, and certainly not by CPP, by UP tradition government.
The PNDC.
By who?
The PNDC. He served in the PNDC.
Oh, please, listen to me carefully. J. Akufo was appointed Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs under Professor Bizia's government. Do you dispute that?
No, and I'm establishing that he was also appointed as a young man.
That is your case.
On that note, we'll go for a quick break.
And then again,
we'll continue
and then again
the
we
conversation.
have partner Japan's and coups.
We'll continue. I know we have a long, but we have to go for...
There are ministers.
We have to go for a quick break, Mr. Kokofo. Is that
And
okay?
in your case of...
we'll go for a quick break. This is Breakfast Daily on Citi TV. Thank you so much for staying with us. It is an interactive show, so use the hashtag Breakfast Daily for us to hear from you, and the WhatsApp line is 0550-585-832. If you're outside Ghana, the country code is +233. We'll be right back.
It's here, the Express Pay app. More social, more power, more services. Experience a cooler way of payments with exciting new features. Want to go social? Upload a cool image to add a personal feel to your account. Payments are even more seamless with an enhanced process. Mark some accounts as favorites so they are super easy to access. Even cooler, view payment due dates and check remaining balances for your favorite accounts. Want to repeat a payment? Do that right from the History tab. Have all your money in one place with a sleek look and feel. Bank Direct has had an awesome makeover. You can now send money instantly to 22 banks and counting. Express Pay, payments simplified.
Welcome back. It's still Breakfast Daily on Citi TV. Thank you so much for staying with us again. We want to hear from you. It's an interactive show, so wherever you are, the hashtag is Breakfast Daily and the WhatsApp line is 0550585832. I still have with me Honorable Samuel Nate George as well as Honorable Henry Kokofu. And right before the break, Honorable Henry Kokofu was wrapping up on the issue of the special prosecutor being allowed to continue his work despite being over the pension age.
Yes, I just wanted to react to my colleague's assertion that he had the opportunity to serve the nation both at appointment and then elected office. Yes, that's a good thing. But he was appointed to the presidency as a staffer, not because somebody retired, then he replaced him. No. And he is in parliament now as parliamentarian, not because his predecessor retired at age 60. No. You see, so the opportunity is still out there.
No.
But isn't that even harder?
Pardon?
Isn't that a harder route?
No, it is. It has never been. What we need is a blend of the up and coming and the established. I mean, the older generation, if you want to say so, with the up and coming, so that we learn from each other. It's a generational kind of thing. And he was quick, and he was right. He mentioned the Samia Ukuz and Kos, Opon Kroma and Kos and all that as present day. But he refuses to accept that in my tradition, or in our tradition, UP tradition, it has been the norm all along. That's why I went back to pinpoint J. Kufuor's appointment, then former president, Kwabena Japan. He was about 38 or 34 years old when he was appointed to the presidency to serve the president. And a host of them. Asamoah Boateng, then Minister of Information, was close to 45 years.
So what's the point of having a retirement age then if old people can still continue to...
No, we are confusing Public Service Commission situation with other public service actors.
Okay.
Public Service Commission is enshrined in the Constitution. And that's why I said Chapter 14 of the Constitution. And that is where they are premising. And per the defense of the state, say no, the special office, the prosecutor's office is delineated from the public service lineage.
Okay.
And that is created to ensure security. And that is why the law from Parliament gives specific tenure of office.
Yes.
You understand? So it has been compensated for in that aspect. So you can call it a novel, a model kind of thing. And that is why he compared it to the Law Revision Commissioner situation.
Yeah.
So yes, just as we've all said, let us wait for the ruling, so that we can all interrogate further.
Thank you.
Just a quick one on that, okay? And I mean, specific to me, because reference was made to my appointment. I actually replaced an older person. It was when an older person left the job as on appointment that I was appointed.
So they retired from
the... But he did not retire. No, he was reappointed.
A second person was left, an older person left, I was appointed as communication specialist.
Did the person retire before he came in?
He was an older person who
But he didn't retire.
because he had not hit the age of 60 at the time. Okay, but you see, let's be clear.
So then you shouldn't have used it as your example. Because you got
if you let me land, you would understand.
Please allow him to make his point.
When you were speaking, I was quiet.
Thank you.
Okay. To the second issue of appointment, of election, that an older person didn't retire before I got elected. There is no retirement age for elected positions.
So you shouldn't have used it.
You're not listening to me.
I will not, because you are refusing to accept.
Can you please allow him to make his
I will
point?
plead with you
Yes,
to
yes.
Because when you were speaking,
please
even when you made
Mr.
specific
Pokufu.
reference to me,
Yes.
You made
Mr.
specific
Pokufu.
reference to me,
Mr.
and I
Pokufu.
agreed. And it was a point.
Yes, but you didn't interrupt when he was
I
making
didn't
Lawyer
interrupt
Pokufu.
you. No, because
When
he had
was making
nothing
his
to.
point.
He had no reason to.
Oh, but
I have good reason, because he himself opened the
I
the
get
cover
that.
to
like
But-
this,
but-
I will
He used,
interject him every time.
he
No.
used himself as an example. He said, look
counsel.
at me, a young man.
Lawyer
I've had the
Pokufu.
opportunity
Okay.
to serve this country
Why are you gonna let him
by
keep doing
appointment
that?
and by election.
Lawyer
That is what he
Pokufu-
said.
Lawyer Pokufu.
Or you want us to play back?
No, please allow him make his point, and then you can respond.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
So we
you.
are going to allow Honorable Sam George make his point, and then you will continue.
Right.
Thank you.
I'm just going to state for the record, so if he wants to get
No, we are not
rowdy,
doing that. Please go
I
ahead.
will stop him
no,
every time
no,
he speaks.
we are not doing that.
because
We
he
are
has a pen and
not. We
paper.
are not doing that. Go ahead.
Very
He won't interrupt.
The point I made, if he was listening well, was simply the fact that young people have gotten the opportunity to get appointed because older people have given way. I gave examples and used myself and said, as a young person, I have benefited from appointed office, and that appointed office is always acted as a spring.
Okay.
Under no circumstances, when I spoke about Article 199, and when I read Article 199, Article 199 was specific to public service officers, and spoke about public service officers having a retirement age of 90, or of 60. Elected officers, because elected officers serve at the pleasure of those who elect them. You can be fired after 4 years. There is no guarantee of security of tenure. There is no security of tenure beyond the 4 years elected period. There is no age limit.
Okay.
However, for appointed office, for public service officers, you have security of tenure.
Yeah.
And that is why there is a limit of 60 years. And that is why I said, look, when you look at the country we are running, when you give young people the opportunity, because today belongs to us, not tomorrow.
Yes.
You give us a fantastic opportunity to rise through the ranks. And what you then do is you tap into the knowledge resource of the elderly. Today, who says within the NDC? The young cadre of people within the NDC. Myself, Ablakwa, Jinapo and Co, Suhini. Who says we do not go and tap from the well of knowledge that the likes of Totobi Kwachi and Ato Ahoy and Co and Kwampepa and Co have? We do.
Okay. Okay.
So long as you have the older folks there in an advisory capacity, and you give young men the opportunity to serve, there's a certain advantage of youth that you bring to the fore. And there is also a certain advantage of age, which comes with experience that you can tap into.
Okay.
And that is how you build a nation. But when you say that young people who have, you set aside the advantage of youth and say that you want to bring back people who only have experience, it doesn't work.
Okay.
And that's why I've established that, look, for us, we want to see what the ruling is.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the arguments that was made by the Deputy
Attorney General. Well, he also
Godfrey
goes
Dame,
on to say that the special prosecutor has a 7-year tenure that he has to complete. So, irrespective of it.
No. You see, one thing we must all bear in mind is that no act of parliament supersedes the 1992 Constitution.
Okay, he ties it into, so let me quote him. He says, okay, so he further submits, I'm still reading from page 3 of the Daily Graphic. He says, he further submitted that per Act 959, the law establishing the OSP, Parliament had provided a tenure of the special prosecutor as a 7-year non-renewable term. Such a move, the Deputy AG argued, was constitutional per the combined effect of Articles 88, Section 4 and 298 of the 1992 Constitution.
My dear, that principle is flawed by any law 101 class.
Okay.
Honorable Kokofu is a lawyer.
Okay.
He knows that in every constitutional jurisdiction, the Grunum, what we call Grunum law, the base law, the mother law, is a constitution. In Ghana, any act of parliament, in fact, if you take the constitution,
but he tied it into the constitution.
Wait, let me just read so that it is not as though some judge is the one saying it.
Okay. So briefly, so that
Article 1
will continue and then we'll move on.
Article 1. Article 1. The very first article of the Constitution, supremacy of the Constitution. Article 1(2) says, this Constitution shall be the supreme law of Ghana, and any other law found to be inconsistent with any provision of this Constitution shall, to the extent of the inconsistency, be void.
Okay, thank you very much.
Every law, and laws are only by rulings of court or other sources of law, are rulings of court, customary law, or acts of parliament. So long as any of this, and statutes, and so long as any of these others conflict with the statute, which is the Constitution, the Constitution will be supreme.
Thank you.
And so where the Constitution says you must have a retirement age for public service people at 60, and Parliament passes a law that gives a 70-year-old.
We do have to wrap you up. Thank you very much.
Please, quick one.
Yes.
I mean, that is 10 by 2.
I mean,
that's it. This is the last one. Then we'll move on to the next topic. He has to respond. No, we're not counting here. We're just having a conversation. Please, thank you.
I had an opportunity to attend
briefly.
Attend to the Deputy Attorney General's birthday party last year, and at that time he was about 34 years.
Okay.
So you've completely.
Okay.
Yeah, and he stood in, and he tied it in with Article 88(4) and 298 of the Constitution. And so if the Constitution is the supreme law, then they say he's citing and he's quoting from the same Constitution.
Yeah.
So, yes, I agree. Everybody agrees that any law, by act of parliament or whatever, that conflicts with the Constitution. But he did so by supporting it, saying that the act that established the OSP had given blah, blah, blah. But then he tied it in to the constitutional provision that actually gives us...
what does Article 88(4) say, please?
Well, if you want to go
I can read. Article 88(4) says, all offences prosecuted in the name of the Republic of Ghana shall be at the suit of the Attorney General or any other person authorized by him in accordance with any law. What does that say to the substance of my argument?
Let's allow the council to
for the purpose of our conversation, when you say 88(4),
and the 298.
298, I can also read that.
You go ahead, don't worry.
Yeah.
But you see, we are not here
they've already agreed on
media trial or anything.
Can we agree to move on now?
So all these advancements and all these suggestions.
But it helps our viewers and us also make sense of it. But we do have to move on.
Of course, but then until the reasons are given by the Supreme Court itself, all that we are doing may be exercised in futility. The real reasons are there inherent in their books, in their bosom.
Okay.
So then,
thank you very much, Honorable Kokofu. Now we'll move on to our next story. It has to do with COVID-19. The numbers have gone up. Yesterday, we heard from the Ghana Tourism Authority that, some drinking spots were going to open, nightclubs could open, hotels could open, and then the ministry came back and said, no, we can't go into any of these spaces, and that we still have to take out or, respect social distancing, and hotels are still closed and nightclubs are still closed. So the current positive COVID-19 cases in Ghana are 5,408. Recoveries are now at 512. So I'm reading from CitiNewsroom.com, and it says here, Ghana's COVID-19 case count has increased to 5,408. The total number of recoveries, 514. And unfortunately, 24 people have passed on. Now, the Ministry of the Ghana Tourism Authority came out to issue a statement that I mentioned earlier, and then we're going to read what we heard from the Tourism Ministry. So it says, drinking bars, nightclubs should remain closed. Tourism Ministry clarifies. The Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture has clarified that drinking bars and nightclubs should remain closed as part of efforts to curb well, this was what the Tourism Authority initially said. And I'm going to quote them. All hotels can operate as normal and host their guests, subject to the specified elevated hygiene protocols and social distancing. Food chains and restaurants can operate sit-downs as well as pick-up and delivery services while observing appropriate social distancing. And food chains and restaurants, including hotels and restaurants, can operate take-out and delivery services only. So the restaurant side of hotels can still operate. Drinking bars remain closed. Nightclubs remain closed. The public is to note that this circular supersedes the one issued by the regulator, and it's signed by the Honorable Barbara Otain Jesse, who is, of course, the Minister of Tourism, Arts and Culture. So, Honorable Kokofu, I'll start with you on this. What exactly is going on with getting two different
This seems to be
issues?
a straightforward thing.
How so?
Yes, the ministry that has the oversight responsibility has spoken and has given indication that their statement supersedes that of the authority. I do not know, sitting here, what went in for the authority to have come out with this, but it will be recalled that Hoteliers Association are crying over the roof, and they've had series of meetings with the ministry and the authorities and all that, and have even petitioned the president to come up to cushion them. Otherwise, they were going to be forced to lay out workers and all those things and all that. However, that does not warrant an exception of the rule as we are in now. So I cannot speak for the authorities as to why that circular came out. But then the important thing is that the ministry have reacted swiftly, and it's clear, the guidelines are clear. Yes. And all that. Then instructions here and there issued. So I can leave that one for further interrogation for my own self. Okay. But the bottom line is that the status quo remains, and it's been reinforced or re-emphasized by the ministry, the sector ministry, and we all have to adhere to that kind of arrangements to help us contain the situation.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kokofu. Honorable Sam George.
Yesterday when I saw the letter from the Ghana Tourism Authority, I took to my Facebook page and asked certain questions. I granted interviews across the line. In fact, in one of the interviews, the PRO for the Ghana Tourism Authority was on the line with me and tried to paint a picture that they were permitted by law. I posited then, and I still posit now, that it's obvious to me that we are fighting two cancers at this point in time, COVID-19 and stupidity. Because you see, for anybody to think and even conceive the idea that when cases have crossed 5,000, we have moved from peak to picker and bath, how do you ask a drunk man to observe social distancing? And they think that it is fine for us to observe social distancing in a beer bar, but we can't observe social distancing in church. For me, this is not coronavirus, it's plain stupidity. And we need to call people out. And I called them out and I said to them, look, you cannot act in such irresponsible ways. And yesterday I said, look, as far as I'm concerned, I don't believe the president will endorse such action. Because, I mean, we heard the president barely 3 days earlier say in his speech that we should eat the wadawa and kontomire to boost our immunity. Why? Do they sell the wadawa and kontomire at the beer bar? The president was clear when he said nightclubs and drinking spots are still closed in his last address on Sunday. So how does he say that on Sunday, and then on Tuesday or Wednesday, his appointee is saying, and I said, look, the president should fire that appointee.
Isn't that a bit of a stretch?
It's not a stretch. We're talking Ghanaian life. PRO said to me that 15 people come to a beer bar to drink. Are you going to give all the 15 people also PPEs? Or they can come and die? The operator should wear the PPE and protect himself. If the 15 people who come to drink, one of them is infected, and he releases droplets into the public. And have you been to a beer bar before?
No.
People get drunk, drinking sports, and when they get intoxicated, the kind of behavior down for a name, go and stand in front of his friend and talk right into his face. How do you control that person?
You must be relieved by the statement from the ministry.
Absolutely. You see, but again, you want to ask what kind of coordination? How can an agency under the ministry issue a statement without consultation with the minister? I mean, it's such comedy of errors in this kind of period cannot be accepted, cannot be tolerated. We deserve better and we expect better. You understand me? There must be sanctions for that irresponsibility. It is gross irresponsibility and gross failure of leadership that the Ghana Tourism Authority will issue such a statement at such a time. And for it to be business as usual, will be endorsing the action, the irresponsibility and poor judgment call by the head of the Ghana Tourism Authority. Yesterday's letter was not the first one they issued. They had issued an earlier one on the 5th of May. I mean, what is the rush? I keep asking, the hotel business. Today. Tell me how many people are going to hotels. Most hotels are patronized by foreign visitors. Yeah. Visitors are not coming into the country. So who is going to, people who want to go and do their Ibamai?
Well, not necessarily. That's not the only reason why people go to hotels. But let's talk about the COVID. Go ahead.
No, but the question I'm asking now is, with the issues of COVID-19, how many of these hotels even have the capacity? Citi FM, you have undertaken the fumigation of public tertiary institutions. You know what it took you to fumigate those buildings, the cost. How many of these hotels are in a position to fumigate and clean the rooms after everybody has used it to ensure that the next guest does not get contaminated? You understand me? And that's why for me, I believe that if government says they have a stimulus package, let us not rush that we are going to open up hotels and all of that. Let us allow them apply for the stimulus package. Because for me, as someone under the influence of the Holy Spirit, can observe social distancing better than Obi Awabu. For me, if you think that someone who is drunk can observe social distancing better than someone who is in the spirit, then you have a problem.
But then how do you also address the economic issues of all these institutions being on lockdown? We understand the health bit, right? We lifted the partial lockdown when we were just under 200 people, and we had to, we instituted the partial lockdown. We were just under 200 positive cases. We had to lift it because of all the economic burdens it would place on us. So if we're still keeping these institutions closed, how do we help people who have lost their jobs within those
Citi Business News has a story. You did a story where the finance minister told us the reason behind the lifting of the lockdown.
We couldn't sustain the economy past 3 weeks.
Forget what the president said about we know how to bring the economy back, but we don't know how to bring it back.
No, he didn't say it that way. But
no, I'm saying, forget what the president said. I mean, that was just soundbite politics.
No, what the finance minister said was economic. No, but I don't want you to paraphrase him too much.
I'm saying what I am saying.
Okay, continue.
Oh,
but
no, I can't say what I'm saying.
Story.
No, I'm making my statement and I'll buttress it with your story.
Okay.
I'm saying, forget what the president said. It was soundbite politicking. The whole talk about knowing how to bring the economy back and not knowing how to bring Ghanaians back. Your story tells us that the reason why the president lifted the lockdown was not because of science, but simply because of the economy.
Well, economics is a form of science, Honorable.
Why?
It is. It's a form of science.
So you see, when I said the president had lifted the lockdown because of political science and not medical science, COVID-19 is not economic science, COVID-19 is not political science, it is medical science. It's epidemiology.
There's some correlation between getting the pandemic and the status of your economy once you're battling with the pandemic. And it's not just Ghana, but globally.
Which economic principle helps you draw the formula for COVID-19?
Okay, have you seen other economies struggling because of the pandemic?
But those economies are still closed.
Okay.
So the bottom line here for me, which I'm making, is very simple. Now look, we've lifted the lockdown because our economy cannot sustain beyond 3 weeks of a lockdown. That's the strength of our economy. Put that aside. Now, you have a system where, as we sit at the moment, you're talking about looking at the problems that these businesses are going to face. Yes, but if you open these businesses now and people die, and people can no longer come to those, what is the value of it? And then, if you think that those places, open their churches. The churches also employ people. The churches, do you know how many churches have laid off workers? Is it because nobody's talking about it? Go, send your camera to go and talk to the churches. The churches, Some of there are churches that employ,
some churches
there are churches that
week.
employ over 500 people.
Yeah.
Some of these hotels don't employ even 100 people.
Okay, we have to wrap you up.
And some of these churches have laid off their staff. Nobody is talking about a stimulus package for them.
We have to wrap you up. Honorable
The businesses have a stimulus package. They can go for it.
Thank you very much. Yes, please.
Yeah, you see, the
He agrees with me, don't worry.
the ultimate rests with the president and his team of advisors on this COVID-19 management. And the president has spoken, and he spoke. I mean, some did well to remind all of us some days back. And so, no other authority, no other authority can supersede, I mean, can put something out there that the president have not sanctioned.
Okay.
That should be a fact.
Okay.
So the minister acting in the stead of the president have set the record straight. However unfortunate that statement might have been, I agree. I mean, the disappointment and the frustration, it cannot be.
Thank you very much. We do have we have messages from our viewers. I'll read them briefly. Good morning. What is Sam George talking about? Was the decision by the Supreme Court in 2012 right in the presidential petition? This is coming from Aziz Bayo from Wa. A.U. Farouk from Tamale North says, good morning to you all. Yes, it is indeed interesting the way our judges are dismissing and prosecuting cases. Ghana is actually pregnant. Time will tell. Okay. This message here from Fuseni from Asamankesa says, good morning, Jifa, and your panelists. Jifa, the Supreme Court should be careful not to create any moisture that will come and disturb the youth of Ghana tomorrow, and seem that the Supreme Court don't think for the youth, and the Supreme Court has got it wrong. Okay. Good morning to you and your panelists. This is to Honorable Sam George. The powers of interpretation of the Constitution by the Supreme Court is found in Article 130, not Article 295, as stated by the Honorable in his earlier submission. I think it was connected to a conversation we were having about the Office of the Special Prosecutor. So it's actually the Deputy Attorney General, Godfrey Dame, who mentioned the Article 295. And Honorable Sam George was looking for it, if I'm not... Oh, actually, no, I'm wrong. You mentioned 295.
I mentioned 295 because Dominic Ayine went to court on the basis of 295.
Okay, so it wasn't to seek...
No. He went on the basis of Article 190, 199, and 295. Okay. That's the reference I made. Godfrey Dame made reference to 298, yes. which is the discretionary power of Parliament. Yes.
Okay. Are we good?
Yeah.
Thank you both so much for being with us.
But let me just use this opportunity to thank President Mahama for his vision. Right now, going to my constituency is not so difficult again because they have finished his project, the Temamoto Way in Tache. When he did his State of the Nation address in February of 2016 in Parliament. That time, Honorable Kukufu was in Parliament. February 2016. President Mahama spoke about the commencement of that project.
And you see what it brings.
And so I'm grateful that government is in continuum and this government has completed President Mahama's project. So thank you very much.
Never mind the completion. So it is not true that President Kufuor is not completing a startup.
Oh, this one you have no option. The money was already there.
And so the other ones that we've not completed, the money were not there.
The money was there.
Thank you both so much for being with us. We'll be hearing from the Information Ministry soon. Okay, they'll be updating us on everything that has to do with COVID-19. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Corona is real. Stay at home.
Yeah.